Hello everyone, this is CJ Novo 992 and today we're back for another brand new video. Today's video is the concluding chapter in the Rangers loan review series. Now that a certain Rangers loanee has went ahead and played in the last game of the season, we can officially sit back, react and discuss and see how the Rangers loanees go on all season long. Who was a success out on loan? Who announced themselves as a future star at this football club, and unfortunately who's went out there this season and done neither of those things? That's what we're here to discuss, ladies and gentlemen. So if you love all things Rangers like myself, sit in, ladies and gentlemen. We have a lot to actually go through. Now, just in case you haven't seen this series before, we're not going to sit here and break down every single loanee from the youth academy and that as well, or genuinely we'd be here for hours, but we will be looking at some very exciting youth players that's been in and around the first team. If they're pretty much trained with the first team, we will discuss it because again, they're near the squad and this could be opening doors for the future going in to next season. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. First team players and the youth players that's been in and around the first team. And I think with that disclaimer out the way, that opens the door to dive right in to today's video. And as always, we will start off from back to front, which means we start off with the goalkeeper that is none other than Robby McCrorie. Now this loan here is probably going to be one of the most talked about loans out of everyone because everyone's expectations were right up here looking at this laddie for being the potential future number one at this football club, because let's not forget how highly Rangers rate this guy. I mean, this was a guy that was loaned down to the lower tier of Scottish football, but he was performing so damn well they pulled him out of there, then loaned him directly to the top flight in Livingston. And it's just unfortunately that season's obviously ended because of lockdown and the virus and Zoom calls and all that malarkey. But we went into this season with the same expectations of seeing this laddie going in there and kill it in the all goalkeeping spot, and unfortunately he's only been able to go ahead and play 18 games in all competitions, keeping 2 clean sheets and conceding 34 goals, which isn't really, holy crap, what a fantastic season. But for me, anyone who looks at that and just looks and says, oh, he's only played 18 times, well, he's not as good as before it could be, that's kind of ignorant in my personal opinion, because this is a 23-year-old goalkeeper that's learning his craft. He's had some fantastic moments in between the sticks, along with some iffy moments that's going to happen when you're learning your craft as a goalkeeper in the top flight of Scottish football. There's no hiding, you can't have easy moments when you're a goalkeeper. Every single action is magnified, and to me, the 18 games is very disappointing for me, but that's the way Martindale runs his squad. He rotates and changes and gives everyone chances. Is it the norm? Absolutely, but we all know that laddie isn't the norm nor type of manager that we see. He is a breath of fresh air, and what he's done with that Livingston squad has been sensational. Me personally and selfishly, very disappointed McCrorie hasn't been able to play week in and week out, but that's Livingston's style of playing. That's what Martindale's done. He's rotated the goalkeepers. But I said this in the midway point of the season review. If you ever wanted to know who Martindale thought was his best goalkeeper, just look at the cup final that Livingston played versus the Johnson. Who played in between the sticks? Who got the nod? It was Robby, and for me, that tells you the story. Moving forward then into the old defence, let's go to the left back spot and speak about someone I haven't mentioned before during the loan review series, and that is none other than the very talented left back James Maxwell. And the reason I didn't mention him is because I wanted to see if he could play at that level that he was playing it for the entire frickin' season, because I didn't want to talk him up if he was just having maybe a purple patch. But this laddie right here has went ahead and put in a sensational season for Queen of the South, where he's just bombed forward, he's grew as a player, he's got bigger, he's got better, and for every single game he seems to have built on and got more confidence and learned. Has he made mistakes? Absolutely, you're going to get that with a 19-year-old, but this is one loan that's been very, very impressive to look at. I mean, at the age of just 19 years old, he's played 38 games in all competitions, grabbing 4 goals and grabbing 4 assists. That's the kind of numbers we like to see from our fullbacks. And he also scored a goal versus Hibs in the Cup as well, which is something we also love to see. But this is a name that maybe not many's actually heard of, but this is a guy that's working his way, and he's came leaps and bounds this year out on his loan. And if he can go ahead and repeat that next year onto his next loan, we may, just may, have another Nathan Patterson scenario here, and that'd be fantastic for our football club to see 2 fullbacks, 2 academy boys up there running the actual show. I know it's very busy at the left back. We've got Barisic, we've got Bassett. I know, ladies and gentlemen, but the future's very bright for that lad if he can continue the development that he's actually on right now. And from one very talented youngster to another, as our future again is backed up with brightness, and that is moving on to our boy Lewis Mayo, who we've actually seen play a couple of times in terms of friendlies and everything like that. He's been in and around the first team. He's received a lot of praise from Steven Gerrard, especially talking about how good of a player he is. He's just needing to grow, needs to develop into a bigger, more physical player if he's going to play at the back, and that's going to come with time. It's not a matter of if, it's when, and that's what this loan was, moving down to Dunfermline, going into the Championship, which is always a very physical, very demanding league. And I think expectations were very high within the Rangers camp for this one as well, because we know this laddie has son. And for his loan, I'm going to be honest with you, it's been pretty successful at Dunfermline, despite them kind of going off the rails towards the end of the season, from first couple months looking tremendous to really dipping badly in the second half. I don't think you can ever look at Mayo and say, oh, he's had a bad game there, oh, he struggled there. It's been consistent. It's just frustrating that the only consistency it wasn't there was where he was being played on the park. And I talked about my frustrations with this in the mid-season sort of review, where he was playing everywhere pretty much besides centre half, the one position we actually want to see him develop. He was playing CDM and he was playing right back, and only a couple of times playing centre back. Now thankfully in the second half of the season he did play more as a centre half, but again he still had more games at centre defensive mid than at centre back, so that's my only irk with this overall loan move. It would have been great to see him play an entire season at centre back, but needs must, and at least he showed that he can play in a couple of positions and he can do a job in a couple of positions. So I think this one again is a positive one. Not a holy crap unbelievable loan, but valuable game time, valuable experience. Hammer thrower league that would have toughened them up, and again, moving Mr. Mayo on the way to hopefully one day getting in and amongst the Rangers. Sticking with the old centre backs, it's now time to talk about big glorious George himself, Mr. George Edmundson, whose stupid incident to one side we all know is a bit of a player. He's good with the ball at his feet, he's a talented player, he's had some good moments in a Rangers shirt, but again he showed a couple of iffy moments showing there is a project there, but we all know there's talent. And I think when this loan went about and we heard about him going down to Derby, we all thought the exact same thing. When he gets fit, he's going to be a very good player for Wayne Rooney's Derby side. Son, it still feels like Son's ripped straight from Football Manager, but he went down there and played for Wayne Rooney, and despite having to wait a wee bit of time, then coming into this team, then hurting himself again, falling out of the team, he thankfully got back into the mix and ended up playing in the last 4 matches for Derby, and that notched up a 10-match appearance over the second half of the season, which again isn't a lot of matches, but a couple of injuries, no fully fit, we had to wait his time. And he played a couple games at centre defensive mid, which I was threatening to get annoyed about, if you remember the last video, but thankfully the majority of the time he played as a centre half. And listen, it wasn't necessarily like great in terms of team performance, he didn't lead them to keeping clean sheets left, right and centre, nothing like that. But if you go and you check Derby, you check what the fans are saying, you check the forms, everything, they continually praise this laddie for his physicality, and he was never at fault or to blame for Derby's downward slide at the second half of the season. He played his part in that phenomenal 3-3 game at the end of the season to keep George Edmundson's Derby side and Waghorn's Derby side up and relegate former Rangers player Josh Windassey's Sheffield United side. So it was a kind of a Rangers battle in the last game, but Big George won it, and unfortunately Josh lost it. And again, despite the old mixed results, I do think there's going to be some interest in George Edmundson. That does leave for a very interesting summer for Big George, because it could genuinely go either way. He could come back and stay at the Football Club, despite the fact I think Jack Simpson's took over that project role that George Edmundson filled regarding the actual squad, especially with Balogun signing a new deal, Katic coming back into the mixer. Do you think there's another loan on the cards for Big Edmundson to see him become the player that we know this man could become, or do you think he's going to move on in the summer? What do you think? Let me know your thoughts and opinions below. Me, I think it might be the latter, but genuinely wouldn't be surprised if we see another loan. And whilst you're hopefully getting your thoughts and opinions down there in the comment section below, we'll transition into the midfield, where it's a very, very mixed bag. But first, I think I want to start off with some good news. In fact, I want to start off with the positives positive. Does that even work? I don't think so, but it's by the name of Stephen Kelly, who again, still a name that doesn't ever get mentioned or brought up in the comment section, but despite me singing his praises every time I possibly can, he's still so far underneath the radar because he doesn't score goals. I mean, he's not going to grab your attention that way where he's scoring or he's beating everyone, then he's going to chip one to the back post for someone to score. That's not what Stephen Kelly is. But for me, if you're asking me right now, spoiler alert for the rest of the video, who has been the most consistent and best player from the first whistle to the last this season from the Rangers loanees, it's Stephen Kelly by some distance. And I'm getting a big smile on my face because this laddie is 21 years old and he was so talented on the football, right? We've spoken about that in years past. He could ping a ball 30 yards without a problem with foot. Look, he can whip in a set piece. He's got a great free kick. He's a dangerous on the ball player. But what I absolutely love this season is during the trials and ups and downs of Ross County season, he's really developed into a much more well-rounded player. He's learned to grab the game by the scruff of the neck. He's learned to get that kind of bulldog stature in the middle of the park, nipping away, grabbing the football. And he's learned to dictate the game and get the ball and slow the game down when Ross County need a result or anything like that. And that for me is exactly what a loan should be. The type of development we've seen this season for young Stephen Kelly. And it's quite fitting for me the way his season ended. With the 29 games that he played, he picked up 3 assists, and it was the last assist in the last game to make them win 2-1 over Motherwell that moved them away from that playoff kind of relegation battle that was there on the last day. He was a massive player for them again, and that summarises his season for me. Absolutely fantastic from the first whistle again into the last. So massive congratulations for me, the best Rangers loanee this season. But just because we've mentioned the best doesn't mean there isn't any other good performances to break down, and again, unfortunately, some negatives. But before we get to some negatives, I want to talk about another positive, and that is none other than Kai Kennedy, who really burst onto the scene when he went down there in Raith Rover, skilling and thrilling, skipping by Hearts players like they weren't even there, and he really announced himself as a player and got everyone excited. And then his name kind of just slowed down a little bit. It wasn't necessarily his performances that was dropping off. He was still getting praise, he was still getting that. It was just that final bit where the ball was going to the mixer, it wasn't ending up into the back of net, so you weren't ever hearing about it. And we mentioned stories earlier on about Edmundsons and Wagcon relegating Josh Windass. Well, we had another story as Kai Kennedy's Raith Rover side actually was the one who ended Lewis Mayo's season at Dunfermline, but it was kind of a double-edged sword because Mayo's season ended and Kai Kennedy's team did go through. However, Kai Kennedy ended up missing the rest of the playoffs because of an injury, and Raith Rovers didn't do anything without him as they were actually slapped by Dundee. But it's a shame for Raith Rovers, and it's obviously a shame for Kai Kennedy, who was missing in those massive games. But it did end his season with 29 games, the 2 goals and 5 assists. Maybe the way he emerged in the first 6-7 weeks of his loan, everyone thought the numbers weren't going to be a lot more crazy and unbelievable. But again, you're thinking about that's his first big loan move, and you've seen so much encouragement. And I'm going to be honest with you, I mean, the way he was skilling and thrilling in the first couple of weeks, it was almost like every hammer thrower in that league had a meeting where they talked about throwing hammers and went, no, we're not letting this little guy skip by us, because by God did he receive some treatment in the later months of the season, getting kicked through pillar to post. But again, he's got that bit between his teeth. Maybe he's learning and appreciating the likes of Ryan Kent, who doesn't shy away, who continues to grind, and he just kept getting back up. And for me, I'm looking at this as another positive loan and a massive development jump again for Kai. And I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you're getting bored with the video or no, but the fact that I'm able to sit here and talk about Rangers loanees, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds that's gone out there and developing and making our future potentially brighter, all that there, it makes me so damn happy as a fan, because I remember the days where we were just looking at the team being like, wait, what's going on here? Why is there no future? Why is there no... Now we're seeing it, and I'm enjoying every single second there. And that kind of gives me the perfect transition into another very positive loan move for another young lad, as this is a 19-year-old by the name of Josh McPake. That if you've ever seen this channel before, or if you've ever heard pretty much any Rangers coach ever talk about any of the youth players, Josh McPake is usually first one to be mentioned. Now, if you think back to the mid-season loan review that we'd done, we talked about Josh McPake's first loan of the season down at Moulton, where he wasn't getting played an awful lot. It was threatening to be another disappointing loan move out there, but thankfully he was moved from that situation to Harrogate, and from there it's just been like that because he's getting more minutes, he's actually getting played, and he's been a vital part in that team, who, by the way, has also just went all the way to a cup final and won it, in which Josh McPake actually played and starred in as well. So that's brilliant to see another Rangers youngster start getting that taste for trophies. But to finish off his loan review properly, taking a step back and look at an entire season, over the 2 loans he has played 33 games in all competitions, grabbing 4 goals and 2 assists for the man who has so much talent. I mean, the first time he ever pulled on the Rangers shirt to play in the first team in a friendly, his first action was to nutmeg a defender. This guy's goat son, ladies and gentlemen, and I can't wait to see it continue to grow and develop. But it is now time to move on to the next loanee, and this is going to be a disappointment loan, which is never fun to talk about, ladies and gentlemen, but to be fair to the series and to be fair to the honest, we obviously have to discuss it. And the first name up is going to be none other than Jake Hastie, and I can't believe I'm saying that because I thought him going back to Motherwell, where he obviously looked exceptional before he signed for us, I thought this was a recipe for success, but it wasn't in any stretch of the imagination, ladies and gentlemen. And to be fair to the laddie, Motherwell absolutely folded like a deck chair for the majority of the season and had nothing going forward and looked very, very bad. But still, when you get on that pack, you need to grab every single opportunity and have a moment or sprinkle a wee magic here just to show a wee bit of sun. But unfortunately, Jake Hastie wasn't able to do that. In fact, he only played 17 games in all competitions, playing 665 minutes throughout the entire frickin' season. And what's really messed up about that is 215 of those played minutes was in the last couple games when Motherwell started to make changes when they were safe and everything post-split. So I can't beat around the bush with this one, ladies and gentlemen. Jake Hastie needed a big season here to put himself back on the Rangers radar. He didn't get it, so it's going to be an interesting summer for him as well. Now, the next player's kind of in between what we've just spoken about. All the positivity so far and then the negativity of the last move. And that slap bang in the middle is Brandon frickin' Barker, who during the last loan review series, he was looking absolutely sensational, skilling and thrilling and making things happen. It was all positive, it was all praise. But as the season and the loan has went on, there has been then questions and people saying ghosted and everything like that in certain games, and it's a shame that he's not been able to find that true consistency yet, because we all know there's a player in there, and the high points over at Oxford he certainly showed it, but then he has these moments where he doesn't impact the game at all. And that's been a kind of summary of his not only Rangers career but over the last couple of years as well. And his season has actually just ended in back-to-back games where he didn't do too much versus Blackpool as they went out in the old playoffs. But he did still finish the season with 22 games, 3 goals and 4 assists. And I think he showed enough during his high points to warrant more interest in him, because I think we all knew what this loan actually was, and I think he's done enough for someone else to gamble that they'll be able to unlock the consistency trait for Brandon Barker, because there's a player in there, it's just finding it week in and week out. But again, I offer him nothing but the absolute best, and hopefully his next move is the one that gets him playing up here and staying up here. Now, you might have noticed over the last couple minutes all we've talked about is Rangers loanee wingers. Well, that's not going to change anytime soon as I knock son off the table, which hopefully wasn't expensive. But we move on to another winger that has just had his playoff dreams ended as well, and that is none other than Jordan frickin' Jones. And it's actually a bit of a hot topic right now to mention the fact that Sunderland just lost in that playoff game, because Jordan Jones was an unused substitute in that game that they actually went out. And if you've been paying attention to social media, they weren't very happy at that at all, because I can't put this any other way. The fans in Jordan Jones and the Sunderland fans have went like that, and that's down to his performance and his work rate and his skill on the ball. Genuinely, they are like that, and it's great to see him have such a positive move, and the fans take to a loanee as well as they actually have. He's already got songs, they already cheer for him, they already absolutely love him, and again, when he didn't play, by God, were they ready to set the old Twitter world on fire. But playoff agony and all that one side, Jordan Jones used this loan to do what every player on loan should do: showcase your talents and just get interest in you. And that is what that man has done. He's played 21 games, he's got 3 goals and he has 4 assists. Very, very scarily similar to Brandon Barker. They actually played against each other, by the way, and Jones actually skinned him to when he ended up creating a goal himself. It's actually quite funny to see. But instead of where Brandon had ups and then he has downs, I think Jordan Jones has been consistently good for Sunderland, and that's been one of the main reasons why the fans have took to him the way he does. And again, that's going to be another one that's going to be interesting for the summer. But for me, the way everything's gone down there and the way the atmosphere is and the way they've took to them, I'm pretty damn sure we'll be seeing Jordan Jones back at Sunderland, whether it is another loan or it's by permanent before another ball is kicked the start of next season. Now, as this video is probably stupidly long, there's literally no one watching this besides me and I'll end with the last Rangers loanee to kick a football then, shall we? And that is none other than our boy Glenn frickin' Middleton, who's still only 21 years old and somehow, unbelievably, is being written off by certain people. I mean, can I just say, by the way, if you can write off a player and expect a player to be at his peak and be the best he can possibly be by 21 years old, stop the bus, because I want off. Middleton's loan is the exact opposite of Jake Hastie's overall loan at Motherwell, because unlike the Motherwell side that was struggling, he should have been able to get in there and make things happen. Glenn Middleton joined a team that went on to win a first cup of the season, right? And he went in there into a position that was stacked with players like Witherspoon, but he never sulked, he never kind of got down, he never lost his way. He used every single substitute minute to show his quality and show everyone that he's a player, and slowly but surely got more minutes. He scored the goal that got them into the top 6. He kept going, he kept plugging away. He got to a semi-final where again, he didn't start despite scoring the goal to get them into the top 6. But when his team needed him, he went on that park. He assisted the first goal in the semi-final just a couple of minutes after getting substituted on. Then he went ahead and scored that in the semi-final to put St Johnstone in their second final of the frickin' season. And honestly, I'm so damn proud of the laddie. Yes, he obviously played in the cup final and ended up missing a penalty in the game, but it was a fantastic save by the goalkeepers. All players miss penalties, it's part and parcel of the game, but he was still positive in that game, still a lot to run, and still had a lot of quality pretty much every time he touched the ball. And for me, I love the way he's went about and approached that loan, because we could have made a lot of excuses for him. Oh, he didn't play that much, or he kind of dipped at the squad because St Johnstone didn't need him by the way they were having the season. No, he ended up forcing his way into a team that won 2 cups, ladies and gentlemen. That's tremendous to see for the 21-year-old, and I honestly think there's still a future in that lad. You can see where he needs to improve, but he's only 21 years old, and when you take a step back and you look at the majority of this video, you're seeing 19, 20 and 21-year-old Rangers players out there on loan making things happen, and by God, is that such a great thing to see. But to finish off Glenn Middleton's loan review properly, in the second half of the season he played 13 games in all competitions, scoring 3 goals and getting 1 assist, and every single goal or assist was vital in itself. Wasn't a stat pad, wasn't when the game was done. Every goal, every assist was needed, and that's a big game player with a big game mentality, and I'm very excited to see where he goes next and he continues to develop, because I honestly haven't given up on the lad and I can't wait to see more Middleton things. But that's it, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. That has been the loan review series. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you're still watching today's video, thank you so much for chilling out and talking Rangers things. It shows that you absolutely love us, anything Rangers related, like myself. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I've been CJ92. Thank you so much for watching. If you didn't mind hitting the like button, that would be greatly appreciated, as I don't think many people is going to click on the video, so any help would be greatly appreciated. But until next time, all the best and bye.